Before the video starts, I'd like to say that there's a big spoiler warning. Go play the game first.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided...
Closing the doors near room 417 will cause the narrator to talk about your decision.
Oh, and I guess this is where Stanley felt he needed to be right now, in this little hallway. Here, with no distractions, to study room 417. Not to actually enter it. No. That would be far too forward. Stanley wanted to know it from the outside. To see it not just with his eyes, but with his heart. He would know room 417 as no man or woman had ever known an office before. That ladder over there. Oh, and that little picture of a horizon or something. It's all just a never-ending parade of joy for Stanley. Ah, no, apparently not. Decided
It even has different text at the bucket.
into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley took the bucket with him into this little hallway and closed the doors. This was their hideout. No one would ever find them here. Of course, no one would ever find them anyway because everyone was missing. But Stanley chose to ignore this fact and instead focus on how cool the hideout was. Just him and the bucket, two renegade heroes against the world, inside their secret, undetectable hideout, here, next to room 417. What a treat. Ah, no, apparently not. Feeling a wave of disbelief.
If you go back into the broom closet after completing the broom closet ending without the bucket, the narrator will be annoyed with you, and if you begin the game again, the broom closet will be blocked off.
Basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway. Ah, second player, it's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his... Oh, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his bosses...
Taking the bucket into the broom closet will eventually give the bucket stickers.
Can you feel it? Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet. All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker. You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us a silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Pressing 8 times on the keypad will trigger a voice that says 8 and give you an achievement.
Eight.
Taking the doors behind the entrance to the boss's office will bring you to an elevator room. Additionally, you can hear the narrator humming to the song and also says some very quiet words. It also does not lead anywhere.
This mind control.
If you don't take the elevator in the mind control facility room and wait for a minute, you can go backwards and trigger a secret disco party.
All this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? Decided that
In the Freedom ending, a flat skull can be seen just outside near a house.
blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Again, Stanley decided that this machinery would...
The screen on the explosion ending will display a link which leads to Tim Minchin's 3-minute song.
Slaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires.
Sometimes when starting, the office will have different layouts. If you get a blue room, you can open the door to the left to obtain the whiteboard ending and the ability to go with the dog.
All of his co-workers were... the embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship that stands the test of time.
I decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
Co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
There's a rare chance that another employee can be seen walking past 425's office.
Co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. All of his co-workers...
Taking the bucket into the heaven ending will bring you to bucket heaven. Additionally, if you do the coward ending with the bucket, it will be different. To have the door open, you will either need a phone call to occur, or for the narrator to say, "Wait, am I sure that the order stopped coming in?" This isn't really a secret, just two endings that most people won't encounter during a normal playthrough.
Still missing. For now... Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. No, the orders were still... As soon as Stanley noticed that the door to his office was still open, he rushed in with his bucket and shut the door. The pressure of going out and finding another bucket variant on one of the Stanley Parable's classic endings was simply too much for him. "It's nothing but swapped-out dialogue describing a bucket," he screamed to himself. "It's not nearly different enough to be considered a true sequel." No, he would stay right here in his office where things were safe, familiar. If others were happy with the bucket endings, well, good for them. But Stanley knew that one day, somehow, a true sequel would emerge with actual new content. If only he had waited long enough. Just a little longer, Stanley. Keep waiting. You'll get it one day, surely. Eventually. Just keep waiting. Just a little longer now. When Stanley came to a...
After going into the warehouse, if you look to the right, there should be 3 dots on the wall, apparently referencing a developer.
Stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. And here it was, the lounge. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
If you take the bucket to the escape pod ending, when you go into the epilogue, the escape pod with the bucket will be there. The escape pod ending is when you go to the boss's office and immediately leave.
Memo. Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping in,
Depending on if you made the cat and dog friends or not, the newspaper in the epilogue will show something different. One of the buttons in the epilogue says, Stanley.
Jim, Stanley, Jim, Stanley.
After completing the epilogue, the stat collector will ask you to increase the Stanley variable title by 1 each time you launch the game. If you get to 8, you will see a reference to the 8 game from the Stanley variable demo.
Hold on. What's this?
8, 8, 8, 8.
The Stanley Parable 8?
8.
No. This doesn't look right at all.
8.
The Stanley
8.
Parable takes place in an
8.
office building.
8.
There are doors and
8.
branching paths.
8.
This is just
8.
a button that says 8 office.
Bringing the bucket into the ATM does nothing.
Hold on.
8.
What's this?
The executive bathroom will change into the memory zone.
Yes.
Bringing the bucket to the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe path through the new memory zone will have new dialogue from the narrator.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Wait, Stanley. I've just now realized. That bucket you're holding, it's the bucket I've been working on for my sequel. How did you get your hands on it? Isn't this the preview to the sequel? How do you have the bucket already? This makes no sense at all. Hold on. Did I already show you my ideas for the sequel? I don't remember doing that at all. You're seeing things all out of order. What order are all of these endings arranged in exactly? Oh, bloody hell, this game is far too complicated. Wait, so this means you must have already been to my exhibit on the Stanley Parable 2. The Infinite Hole, the Jim Button. Did you see them already? Stanley, none of them are ready yet. I'm still developing them. They're not even close to finished. How did they look when you saw them? Were they captivating? Were they exciting? Did they fulfill on the promise of everything that a sequel to Stanley Parable could possibly be? Had I figured out how the hell to make a sequel to this game? Wait, if you're still carrying the bucket around with you, if the bucket is interesting to you, that means I must have made it correctly. Yes. You carrying the bucket with you everywhere is exactly what I set out to accomplish. The bucket is the exciting and captivating new content that I promised. I did it! I win! I made a sequel to the Stanley Parable. Yes, the sign is correct. Thank you for enjoying the new content. Thank you for taking the bucket everywhere with you, clinging tightly to the bucket, never letting it go. It means I've won. It means I am victorious over the gamers. It is a sweet salve of victory on my soul. Thank you for enjoying the new content. The bucket is the Stanley Parable now. They are one and the same. There is no Stanley Parable without the bucket. I win, 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 I win. A committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
If you take the bucket to the location of where you got the bucket, both of them will explode.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features. Wait, there are 2 buckets here. How did you get a second bucket? Oh no, the warmth and comfort of a single bucket is already so great, so intoxicatingly wonderful. With 2 buckets, there's no telling. Stanley, can you still hear me? Are you with me? Stanley! Oh, thank God, I didn't lose you, Stanley. The power of 2 buckets was too much. I had to destroy both of them. I know how much the bucket meant to you, but I couldn't take the risk. I hope one day you can forgive me.
By starting the game again while in the jump circle, you'll be able to jump anywhere. If you unplug the phone and jump off the lift, you won't die and some secret music can be heard.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. Oh, no, you can't. Did you just unplug the phone? Now, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do? Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please. Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality. Stanley was so bad at following.
If you do the jump glitch and head into the tape recorder ending without the bucket and jump over some boxes, there's an Elden Ring Easter egg.
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far. Found them. It'll all work itself.
There's a QR code within the Stanley Parable 2, which leads to the StanleyParable2.com. After following the adventure line for a bit, there will be a corner that has the Deluxe mask from Payday. I'm not sure what triggers this, but you can get a special room that has Employee 432 peer reviews. After completing the confusion ending, if you look into the right windows, the line can still be seen.
Computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. You, Stanley, I don't know if you realize.
In the Stanley presentation ending, a low poly rat can be found sitting on a couch before the backstage room.
For the better. Oh good, we're here. Okay, the room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere. Ah, yes, here it is, just through this door.
This is the most obscure reference, and it might not even be one, but the drinks from the vending machine in the Stanley Parable Expo Mall can be seen on the vending machines in Crow's other game called Dr. Langeskov, the Tiger, and the Terribly Cursed Emerald, a Whirlwind Heist.
Okay, 2 minutes. This is your 2 minutes. Are the intro crews ready? Can we check if the orchestra is ready, please? We have a full...
Thanks for watching. Comment any other secrets you know of. Enjoy some weird occurrence that happened when I was recording these clips.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Maybe Stanley would never pick up the bucket. A lonely bucket, lonely and miserable and Stanley-less. Such a sad fate for a bucket. Opened, blew outside, and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather. Stanley, pick up the bucket. Stanley picked up the bucket.
Lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom, this mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone... When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors, they entered the door on the left. These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Manipulated to accept it No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? Of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Whoops. Nope. Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great... Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control. Again in his life. Cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort.